So, what does the world believe? I mean, it's a question that shapes pretty much everything, right? Culture, geopolitics, you name it. Today, we're going to use data to draw a global map of faith, and what that map shows us is a world in the middle of a really dramatic demographic shift.
It's a huge question for sure. But you know what's cool? Thanks to some incredible global data, we can actually get a surprisingly clear picture of where things stand today, and maybe even more importantly, where they're all headed.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with a big global snapshot. Then we'll get to know the major players, see where they are on the map, and then, this is the really interesting part, we'll look at how that map is shifting, which gives us a little peek into the future of faith.
All right, so first up, let's get that big 30,000-foot view of what belief systems look like across the entire planet.
Okay, so right away you can see that just two groups, Christianity and Islam, make up more than half of everyone on Earth. But the real surprise here, the thing that might make you go, huh, is that third biggest slice, the unaffiliated. At 16%, that is a massive group of people, bigger than all the world's Hindus or Buddhists. Okay, so with that big picture in mind, let's zoom in a little bit and meet the major players behind those numbers.
We're going to kick things off with the world's largest religious group, Christianity.
2.4 billion people. Now, to put that in perspective, just think about it. That's roughly 1 out of every 3 people on the entire planet. It is a massive and deeply influential global group.
And its reach is, it's truly global. While a lot of us might think of Europe as its historic heartland, today, its biggest population centers are in the Americas, and here's a really important shift we're seeing, sub-Saharan Africa. All right, next up we have the world's second largest and, as we're going to see, fastest growing religion, Islam. We're talking about 2 billion followers. That represents nearly a quarter of all the people on Earth. Now, its historic heartland is, of course, the Middle East and North Africa. But here's a fantastic piece of trivia for you. The country with the single largest Muslim population today, it isn't in the Middle East at all. It's Indonesia, way over in Southeast Asia.
Okay, moving on to Hinduism. It's one of the world's oldest faiths, and you'll see it's uniquely tied to a very specific part of the world.
With roughly 1.2 billion followers, it's the third largest religious group, putting it pretty much neck and neck with another major demographic we're about to get to.
And this, right here, is where Hinduism really stands apart. Unlike that global spread we saw with Christianity or Islam, its population is incredibly concentrated. Get this, over 90% of all the world's Hindus live in a single country, India.
All right, let's circle back to that group we saw earlier, the unaffiliated. This is a really fascinating and honestly an often misunderstood category. And just look at that number, 1.2 billion. That puts the religiously unaffiliated on the exact same scale as the entire global Hindu population. We're not talking about a fringe group here. This is a major global demographic. Now, it's important to understand this isn't just one monolithic group, right? It includes atheists, agnostics, and lots of people who are maybe spiritual but don't have a formal religion. And kind of like India's link to India, this group is also highly concentrated, with a staggering 61% living in just one region, East Asia, and that's primarily driven by China.
So, when you start to put all of those pieces together, a pretty clear world map of belief starts to emerge.
So this really pulls it all together, doesn't it? You have the broad multi-continental spread of Christianity, the distinct regional hubs for Islam, and then these super intense concentrations of Hinduism in South Asia, and the unaffiliated in East Asia. Each group has its own unique geographic footprint. Okay, so that's the what and the where. But honestly, the most dynamic part of this whole story is what's next. Because this global religious landscape, it is not standing still. It's changing, and it is changing fast. So what's driving all this change? Well, it really just boils down to 2 things, age and birth rates. Simple as that. You've got groups like Islam and Hinduism that have younger populations in parts of the world that are growing like crazy. On the other side, you have groups like Christianity and the unaffiliated who tend to be older and concentrated in regions with lower birth rates. This demographic engine is literally changing everything. And that engine leads us to the single biggest, most impactful trend shaping the future of faith. Because it has the youngest median age and high fertility rates, Islam is, by a pretty significant margin, the fastest growing major religion in the world, period. So, where does all this leave us? What does it all mean for the future? If we follow these incredibly powerful demographic trends, what is tomorrow's world of faith actually going to look like? And really, this is the big question that all of this data leaves us wrestling with. As the demographic center of gravity for the world's biggest faiths continues to shift, away from Europe and toward places like sub-Saharan Africa, how is that going to reshape global culture, politics, and power? The map of belief, it turns out, isn't some static thing in an old atlas. It's a living document, and we're watching it get redrawn right before our very eyes.